High-end prologue. My paws had wings, or at least that's how it felt as I flew across the forest floor. At the speed of light, with the grace of the wind, on paws that barely made a sound, their thuds soft as feathers landing upon the earth. The thrill of freedom ran through my fur from nose to tail tip like a living organism, as I reveled in the pure exhilaration. Weaving through densely growing trees, dodging obstacles and leaping over low-growing floor with ease and precision. A part of my waking mind knew that I was dreaming. The temperature was mild and the fresh lively scents of the forest permeated the air all around me. The proud feeling of life in its prime overcame all of my senses, as the air blasted my face. The sounds that reached my sensitive hearing, through the whistling of speed, spoke of a rare clear sunny day during the fall rainy season. With bird song all around, and the sound of water flowing lazily in full streams all across the territory, kept cool and running by the thick canopy of trees that protected them from evaporating or boiling to a crisp under the brutal African sun. The greenery that flashed past me were lush, their leaves vibrant and healthy, their moist surfaces shining even when cast in shadow. Life was bursting from every seam nature had to offer after the long rains had satisfied the earth's despair and thirst left behind by the dry season of summer. I half expected to scent or see young wildlife as well, as they would have been born about 2 months earlier, but there was no sign of any animals anywhere on the ground, just endless green as far as the eye could see, and the sound of tree-bound creatures high above, hidden among the cloud-like treetops. It was lush and green in my dream, but I was certain that when I woke and looked out my second-story bedroom window that the tree line bordering our unnaturally green and pristine front lawn, the forest would look much different from the one around me. It would still be the same forest, but the trees would be bare, their trunks dull and bleached by the sun, with only a few desperate leaves still clinging to the branches as they shriveled away before dropping to the ground to join their fallen comrades. Their war lost against a fate to become no more than a crackling mass of defeated leaf, soldiers that were out under the most silent of paws, crackling and shifting under the stir of weight and wine like fragments of glass. I groaned internally. It was still early summer in the waking world, and yet most of the larger streams had already dried up in our territory. I hated the summer, detested it. It was too warm and sunny all the time, and the glare hurt my eyes even indoors or under the sparse branch cover that remained of the mountain forest. Fall and the next rains were still a long way away. I turned my legs and pleasant thoughts back to my dream self, taking in the glorious green haven that was my home with its deities and rises, erosion slopes and rocky outcrops, and steep declines that ran down the mountainside from ancient floods and landslides. Sunlight sparkled on morning dew-covered leaves and danced across the soft forest floor, the sun not yet having pierced the trees enough to start to dry and warm the soggy ground. Wetness from the rain-soaked earth splattered between my toes and clammy soil clogged around my paws with every bound, but I didn't care. I was free. The dancing sunlight played over my creamy fur and warmth seeped into my back for a split second every time I dashed over a warm yellow splotch of sunlight that broke through the green gloom, too late stretched out like a dozing cat on the ground across my path. Its warmth stealing away the moist that made my paradise so green and full of life. Part of me wanted to stop running, to snap and snarl at the intruding sun felines and tell them to get the hell out of my territory, but I couldn't make my paws dig in and slow down. I only wanted to run harder, further and faster. All I wanted was to run and never look back. To run just for the pure joy of it. A flash of movement up ahead and a glimpse of a charcoal gray tail reminded me of my silent quarry. I pushed off harder and shot forward, intending to take a flying leap at my best friend and roll him into the muck. Determination bulged in my muscles and my speed increased with purpose. I grinned a wolfish grin as I imagined lording my victory over the older male when I beat him this time around. Zaid was a great deal bigger than me, and a whole lot heavier, and I had his superior male size and strength as well as our 6-year age gap counting against me. I was usually the one who ended up with my snout in the dirt, but not this time. This was my dream, and I was going to whip his ass for once. Lengthening my strides, I flattened my body, belly fur nearly brushing the ground as I picked up speed in anticipation for a mighty kick with my hind legs to propel myself forward. My aim was to hopefully land squarely on his shoulders, though I would settle for snapping my jaws shut around his tail and hanging on for dear life if I didn't make my target. I was a small wolf, even for a female, and well, beggars couldn't be choosers, and I wasn't above playing dirty if it got me what I wanted. The dark furred form flashed past my muzzle and I had to dig in my front paws with so much force that my hindquarters came spinning past me in a wide arc as I threw on the brakes, leaving skid marks in the damp soil. The idiot must have looped back and flashed across my path to throw my speed off when he heard me gaining on him. Filthy. Filthy son of a... I cussed under my breath in my wolf tongue, using growls and snarls to express my thoughts as clearly as my human mouth would. I huffed in exasperation, and sneezed as the sprayed dirt irritated my nose, leaving it feeling clogged and tingly. Riding my paws before I could land in a tumble of limbs and tail, I changed direction to charge after the infuriating male once again. Wind flattened my fur to my skin and sound whipped over my ears without being heard as I flattened them to my skull in determination. This male was going to pay for that stunt. A heavy weight rammed into me from the side and the wind was knocked out of me. Two heavy paws pinned me to the mulchy earth and I gasped for air, eyes watering. Recovering fast, I growled ferociously and started thrashing like a crocodile on steroids, trying to buck the male off of me and pluck his fur out for getting the jump on me like that. Shit, he was strong, or heavy, maybe both, I thought, feeling my bones tiring out fast. I bet he was grinning down at me, having the time of his life seeing me squirm like a worm on a hook. I must look super dignified. Anger and humiliation burned in my fur. It fueled me, and I lashed out blindly with teeth and claws the best I could, but all my fangs and claws met were churned. I couldn't even flip over to defend myself or lift my belly and inch off the ground. As a last attempt I tried dragging myself out from under Zave's heavy paws, but when I did long claws gripped my shoulder fur, holding me in place with a hint of a threat. I froze at the sensation. Those claws were unnaturally long, and those were very large paws. The scent of old blood and distant decay filled my nostrils as I panted. A wolf scowl called in the distance, a wolf scowl that I knew well, and it had come from the direction I had seen Zave's tail disappearing. Something akin to terror gathered in my throat as my heart began to thud loudly in my chest. Gripped by immobilizing dread, I watched the lush green of the forest around me start to swim and change, the movement so jarring that it made my head spin. The upturned mulch below my belly began to dry rapidly, turning powdery and forming cracks, warming like the sun-boiled earth of summer, but worse. The trees that had been full of life and blooming with green had become shriveled and black, like they had not only dried up and died from drought but as if they had burned. The heating ground beneath me grew more uncomfortable with every passing second, drying my fur out and burning the tender skin of my belly until I swore there had to be blisters on every part of my body that was pressed to the forsaken ground. Everything happened so fast that I barely had time to register any pain. I only wished that I could move, that I could get out from whoever was holding me down, making me watch as my home wasted away before my eyes, and letting me burn along with it. It felt like I was boiling alive, my skin starting to rise and bubble in places. I whimpered and willed myself to move, my only desire to ease the discomfort and feeling of unease that held me trapped in my own mind. I struggled, panting hard with thirst and heat exhaustion that seemed to come out of nowhere, but the paws only tightened their grip every time I so much as breathed. Hesitantly and filled with despair over my situation, but too exhausted to do anything more, I turned my head to look up over my shoulder at who was holding me down. Fear and apprehension made my body slow and sluggish, my entire being not sure of my decision to look up at what kept me prisoner. A large form loomed over me, its front paws planted firmly on my shoulders, clearly not having to use much force to keep me there, as its form appeared calm and relaxed. I couldn't make out any recognizable features, as the sun was shining from directly above, burning my eyes and coloring the creature as no more than a murky silhouette. I hoped to glimpse a look at its face or to meet its eyes, but the wolf had no eyes to meet. This was no ordinary wolf, and it was definitely not Zabe. I didn't know who or what it was, but I knew it. I think I always have.